By the time the city lights flickered on outside my office window, I believed my life made sense. That belief mattered to me. Order mattered. Control mattered. In a city that chewed people up for sport, I had carved out something solid, brick by brick, deal by deal. The kind of success that didn't come from luck, but from late nights, cold coffee, and missed weekends. My name sat on the glass door in clean black letters, not flashy. Just earned every morning I stopped at the same corner diner for eggs, wheat toast, and black coffee. Same booth. Same waitress. Same rhythm. Consistency kept the noise away. In a world obsessed with shortcuts, I trusted routines. That trust would cost me everything. I lived downtown, high enough to see the river bend like a silver scar through concrete. On weekends, I grilled burgers on the balcony, watched traffic crawl, and told myself this was freedom. I had a woman I loved, a circle I believed in, and a business that fed not just me, but everyone tied to it. I didn't notice the cracks at first. You never do. The first warning came disguised as progress. A promotion pitched as a partnership. A handshake that lingered a second too long. Smiles that didn't reach the eyes. But I brushed it off. I had known these people for years. We shared meals, shared wins, shared stories about coming up broke and refusing to stay there. Loyalty felt mutual. That was the illusion. At home, things were quieter than usual. Not cold, just distant. Conversations shortened. Laughter thinned. She said she was tired. Said the city was wearing her down. Said things would get better once the next big milestone passed. I believed her because I wanted to. Flashbacks came later. Sharper than knives. The way she guarded her phone. The sudden interest in my schedule. The nights she stayed out late, claiming work stuff while wearing perfume she never used to like. But back then, I trusted love the same way I trusted contract, assuming honesty until proven otherwise. The city moved fast. So did my days. Meetings blurred together. Papers stacked higher. Numbers climbed. From the outside, it looked like momentum. From the inside, it felt like pressure pushing inward from every wall. One night, I stayed late, long after the cleaning crew left. The building hummed with emptiness. I stood by the window, watching rain turn headlights into streaks of white. For the first time, a strange thought crossed my mind. What if this can all disappear? I laughed it off. Fear likes to whisper when you're tired. The following week, I hosted a small dinner at home. Nothing fancy steak, baked potatoes, a bottle of bourbon I'd been saving. People I trusted filled the room. Voices bounced off the walls. Smiles, toasts, compliments about how far I'd come. I raised my glass, unaware that half the people clinking it were already planning life without me. That night, I caught her watching one of them a second too long. Not enough for proof. Just enough for unease. A flicker. A look that didn't belong to me. Foreshadowing doesn't announce itself. It waits. Later, when the guests left and dishes sat untouched in the sink, I asked her if something was wrong. She smiled and said no. Kissed my cheek. Told me to stop worrying. I listened. I always did. Days passed. Then weeks. The business surged forward. Expansion talks began. New contracts. Bigger risks. More money on the line. I signed documents without hesitation, surrounded by people who swore they had my back. Trust is expensive. I was paying full price. One afternoon, my card declined at lunch. Just once. Just long enough for the cashier to look confused. I laughed it off, paid with another card, blamed the system. Technology glitches happen. That's what I told myself while chewing a dry burger that tasted like nothing. That night, I logged into my accounts. Balances shifted. Numbers didn't align. Small enough to ignore. Big enough to feel wrong, I told myself. I'd check again tomorrow. That was the last calm day of my life. Because somewhere, between those missing dollars and that forced smile at dinner, a line had already been crossed. Papers were already moving. Promises were already broken. And the people I trusted most were already preparing to watch me fall. I just didn't know it yet. And when the truth finally came, it wouldn't arrive loudly. It would arrive quietly, like a door closing behind me. Asterisk. The city didn't change. I did. After the declined card, I started noticing things I'd trained myself to ignore. Emails that skipped me but referenced decisions I hadn't approved. Meetings scheduled without my input. Numbers rounding in directions that didn't favor me. Nothing loud. Nothing obvious. Just enough friction to make my instincts itch. Instincts don't scream. They tapped at the office. I watched conversations pause when I walked in. People smiled too quickly. Laughed a second late. My assistant, Nora, avoided eye contact for the first time since I hired her. She handed me a folder with shaking hands and said she was just tired. Everyone was tired. Apparently, flashbacks crept in uninvited. The early days, folding chairs in an empty office, cheap takeout eaten off blueprints, promises spoken like vows. We said we'd never become like the people who tried to squeeze us out. Funny how memory sharpens right before it breaks. One evening, I stayed late again, not to work, but to watch. The office after hours tells the truth. People drop masks when they think no one's looking. I saw two partners leave together, voices low, shoulders angled inward. When they noticed me, the conversation died mid-sentence. "Long day," one of them said. I nodded. Long days were my currency. At home, the distance grew heavier. She started cooking less, ordering more, eating without me, watching shows on mute while scrolling. When I asked about her day, she gave summaries instead of stories. I remembered when she used to tell me everything, even the boring parts. One night I woke up to the glow of her phone. She angled the screen away when she felt me move. Said she was checking the weather. At midnight, indoors, I didn't argue. I logged the moment away like a receipt I hoped I'd never need. The following week, a letter arrived from the bank. Neutral language. Polite concern. Requesting clarification on recent activity. My name was on it, but the tone wasn't meant for me. It was meant for someone who needed reminding. I called my financial advisor. Straight to voicemail. That's when unease became something heavier. I took a walk to clear my head, cutting through downtown streets soaked in neon and exhaust. The city always smelled like ambition and regret mixed together. I'd loved that smell once. Now, it felt like a warning. At a crosswalk, I watched a man argue with a parking officer, his voice cracking with panic. I saw myself in him for a split second. The thought unsettled me more than I wanted to admit. Back at the office, I pulled old files. Early contracts. Original signatures. Clauses that protected me. Or so I thought. Somewhere along the line, addendums had been slipped in. Changes so small, they felt harmless. Adjustments made for efficiency. Efficiency is a favorite word of people planning to take something. I checked timestamps. Cross-referenced emails. The pattern formed slowly, like a bruise rising to the surface. Decisions made while I was out of town. Votes taken in meetings I was told were postponed. Authority diluted one signature at a time. I realized something then that made my stomach drop. This wasn't chaos. It was coordination. At dinner that night, I finally asked her directly if there was someone else. I kept my voice calm, neutral, like a business question. She laughed. Not offended, not angry, amused. "You're being paranoid," she said. "You've been under a lot of stress." Asterisk gaslighting doesn't feel like fire. It feels like fog. I wanted to believe her. More than that, I needed to. Belief was the glue holding everything together. Without it, the whole structure collapsed. So I nodded, apologized, promised to slow down. She kissed me on the forehead, like you comfort a child. That gesture followed me for days. At work, the pressure increased. Subtle suggestions that I take time off. Comments about burnout. Jokes about me being too controlling. The narrative shifted quietly, like furniture moved while you're sleeping. Foreshadowing came in the form of a casual remark during a meeting. "If anything ever happened to you," someone said, "smiling, we'd make sure the company stayed in good hands." The room laughed. I didn't. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay staring at the ceiling, listening to the city breathe, sirens in the distance, a train rattling steel. Somewhere below, people living lives that hadn't started unraveling yet. I thought about pride, about trust, about how easy it is to hand power away when you assume no one would dare use it against you. Didn't know how far it had gone, but I knew one thing for certain. Someone had already decided I was expendable, and they were just waiting for the right moment to prove it. The collapse didn't come all at once. It came in pieces, each one small enough to explain away until they weren't. It started with a calendar invite labeled internal review, mandatory. Short notice, no agenda. When I walked into the conference room, every seat was filled, except one, the chair at the head of the table. My chair. I didn't sit. Jack cleared his throat. Ryan avoided my eyes. Mike folded his hands like he was about to pray. The air felt heavier than usual, like the building was holding its breath. "This won't take long," Jock said. That sentence is never true. They spoke in careful language. Words like alignment, risk mitigation, continuity. I listened, standing, as if distance might protect me. Slides appeared on the screen charts I'd never seen. Projections I hadn't approved. Conclusions drawn without my voice. Then the phrase landed. Temporary removal of executive authority. Temporary. Like a promise you don't intend to keep. I laughed once, sharp and short. "You don't have the votes." Jack finally met my eyes. "We do." The room went quiet. In that silence, I understood something important. This wasn't a debate. It was a verdict. They handed me documents. Legal, clean, cold. My signature was already on some of them. Old addendums. Old trust. Flashback after flashback hit me late nights. Shared meals. Jokes about how we'd grown too smart to be fooled. Every memory rewrote itself in real time. I left without saying another word in the elevator. My reflection looked older, smaller, like gravity had increased while no one was watching. Outside, the city carried on. Cars honked. A street vendor argued with a customer. Life didn't pause for personal disasters. At home, she was already there, sitting on the couch, composed. A folder on the coffee. Table between us. That image will stay with me forever. She didn't ask how my day went. She said, "We need to talk." The folder contained copies bank statements, property documents, emails printed and highlighted, evidence prepared in advance. My name appeared everywhere, but control appeared nowhere. She explained it like a presentation. Said she'd felt neglected. Said I'd become obsessed with work. Said she needed security. Stability. Future not tied to my moods. Her words were smooth. Practice then. She said the sentence that broke something in me. "You should have paid more attention." I realized then she wasn't confessing, she was justifying. I asked her how long. She didn't answer directly. I asked who else knew. She smiled, thin and tight. "More people than you think." Betrayal wasn't just romantic. It was architectural. They'd moved beams while I admired the walls. That night I packed a bag. Not because I was told to leave, but because staying felt like suffocation. I walked out into the city with nowhere to go and too much pride to ask. Slept in my car, downtown, streetlight flickering like it couldn't decide whether I mattered. Morning came hard. Cold coffee from a gas station. Messages flooding and some sympathetic, most silent. The company email access was already gone. My phone buzzed once with a notification that my count limits had changed. Another word that pretends nothing was stolen. Days blurred together. Lawyers spoke in measured tones. Friends picked sides quietly. Some vanished. Others checked in just enough to feel decent. Nora was the only one who showed up without asking. She sat across from me in a diner, pushed a plate of eggs toward me, and said I didn't sign anything. Her voice shook. Fear and loyalty tangled together, she told me. Things, dates, conversations, names, enough. To confirm what I already knew, this wasn't an accident. This was removal. Foreshadowing came in the form of a voicemail from Jack, left late at night. He sounded relaxed, almost kind. "Take some time," he said. "Figure out what's next." What he meant was, accept it. I didn't call back. Instead, I drove the city until night swallowed the streets again. I thought about trust, how it feels solid, until the moment it's weaponized. I thought about pride, how it keeps you standing, even when everything else collapses. Most of all, I thought about one quiet, dangerous idea. They believed I was finished. They believed the story was over, and for the first time since the floor dropped out from under me, I felt something that wasn't pain. I felt focus. Asterisk, rock. Bottom isn't loud. It's quiet enough to hear your own thoughts echo. I moved into a small place on the edge of downtown, one room. Thin walls, a window that faced an alley where delivery trucks idled before sunrise. The mattress sagged in the middle. The lock stuck unless you lifted the door just right. It was nothing like the life I'd lost, which was exactly why it worked. I needed nothing that reminded me of who I used to be. Mornings started early. No alarms. My body woke itself up now, tuned to anxiety and purpose in equal measure. I ran through empty streets while the city still belonged to janitors and bakery trucks. Sweat burned out anger better than sleep ever could. I ate simple food, a dope meal, grilled chicken, apples, the kind of meals that keep you alive without pretending to celebrate anything. I drank cheap coffee and read documents instead of news. I stopped telling my story to people who hadn't earned it. Silence became strategy. The first month, I didn't fight back. That confused them. People expect rage, lawsuits, public statements. I gave them none of it. I let them grow comfortable with the idea that I was licking my wounds somewhere dark. Behind that silence, I worked. I started with memory. Every conversation, every meeting, every moment that felt off in hindsight. I wrote them down at night, filling notebooks with timelines and names. Patterns emerged where I once saw coincidence. Flashbacks. Stopped hurting and started teaching. Nora fed me what she could without risking herself. Old emails, internal memos, calendar invites that never reached me. She was careful, brave in quiet ways. Loyalty like that doesn't announce itself. I met with an attorney who didn't flinch when I told him everything. He listened, asked questions that cut straight through emotion. When I finished, he leaned back and said they were thorough, but they weren't perfect. Hope is dangerous when you're fragile. I kept mine contained. Weeks turned into months. I took contract work under a different title. Smaller pay, less ego. Enough to survive and stay invisible. The city taught me again what it means to move without being seen. I watched from a distance as the company made headlines. Expansion, innovation, leadership interviews. My old work repackaged with new voices. She appeared at events I used to attend, wearing confidence like it was always hers. I didn't flinch. Every public smile gave me another data point. Every quote revealed something they assumed no one would question. At night, the alley outside my window filled with sound, laughter, arguments, engines revving. Life continued. It always does. I stopped asking why this happened and started asking how far it went. That's when I found the thread they missed. A transfer to rushed. A signature dated wrong. A shell company used once and abandoned. Sloppy by their standards. Human error hiding under arrogance. I followed it patiently. No shortcuts. No assumptions. Foreshadowing arrived in an unexpected place. A call from my father. We hadn't spoken much since everything fell apart. Not out of anger, out of mutual discomfort. He listened while I explained where I was and what I was doing. "You're quieter than you used to be," he said. "I'm listening more," I replied. He paused. "Good. That's when people tell you the truth." I took that with me. I met former employees over burgers and fries framed as catching up. I asked questions without pushing. Let them talk. People reveal more when they feel safe. Regret loosens tongues. Stories aligned. Timelines overlapped. The picture sharpened. They hadn't just taken my position. They'd planned to erase me. Documents filed, without notice. Narratives shaped in advance. My instability exaggerated. My absence exploited. Every move designed to make my removal look responsible. That hurt more than the betrayal itself. But pain is fuel when you stop wasting it. By the end of the year, I had enough to act, but not enough to win. Not yet. Rushing would destroy everything. They were confident, expanding, distracted. Perfect. I stood one night in my small kitchen, city noise humming through the window, and looked at the notebooks stacked on the counter. Evidence, preparation, discipline. I wasn't rebuilding my old life. I was constructing something. Stronger. They thought I was broken. They never considered I was learning. By the time they noticed me again, I was already inside the walls. Not physically. Not yet, but close enough to hear the cracks. The city had shifted seasons without asking my permission. Winter gave way to wet sidewalks and impatient traffic. People walked faster, talked louder, acted like time was something you could outrun. I moved differently now, measured, intentional, visible in plain sight. That's how real returns begin. I changed routines again. New diner. New streets. New hours. I learned when executives talked too freely after drinks, after wins, after believing the danger had passed. I listened. I recorded nothing. I remembered everything. One evening, I attended an industry event I had once headlined. I didn't register under my old title. Just a consultant badge. No one stopped me. No one looked twice. That stung more than I expected. From across the room, I saw them. Jack laughing too loudly. Ryan holding court. She stood near the bar, confident, glowing, wearing a dress I'd never seen before. The sight hit me hard, not with longing, with clarity. This wasn't my life anymore. Good. I drifted through conversations. Adding nothing, absorbing everything. Words like liquidity, leverage, exit strategy. They were already planning what came after. People who betray once don't stop. They escalate. Foreshadowing came disguised as arrogance. They'll never challenge it. Jack said to someone who didn't realize I was listening, "Too messy. Too expensive." I smiled into my glass. The next morning my attorney called. His tone had changed. Sharper. More alert. "We're ready," he said. "If you are." Readiness isn't excitement. It's calm. It's knowing you've done the work and accepting the cost. I authorized the first move quiet. Procedural. Devastating if noticed. A filing. A request. A flag raised in the right system. Nothing dramatic. Just enough to slow things down. They felt it within a week. Projects stalled. Accounts froze pending review. Questions surfaced from places they thought were handled. The machine they built started coughing. I stayed silent. Nora left the company shortly after. No announcement. No farewell email. She joined me 2 days later with a box of documents she'd been saving for months. "I couldn't leave without these," she said. I didn't ask how she got them. I didn't need to. Loyalty always costs something. We worked late nights again, but this time without illusions. No jokes about the future. Just focus. Purpose. Control reclaimed inch by inch. Flashbacks surface differently now. Not painful, precise. I could trace every decision that led here. See where trust blurred judgment. The past stopped haunting me and started instructing me. They responded the only way people like them. No. How by tightening grip. Pressuring former allies. Issuing threats dressed as legal caution. Painting me as bitter, unstable, obsessive. It almost worked. Almost what they didn't know was how deep the foundation ran. How many witnesses remembered things they'd assumed forgotten? How many emails never fully disappeared? How many signatures told stories they couldn't rewrite? The city noticed too. Rumors moved faster than press releases. Whispers in elevators. Side glances at meetings. Confidence cracked. Smiles thinned. She called me once. Just once. Didn't apologize. Didn't accuse? Why are you doing this? She asked. I waited before answering. Not for drama, for truth. I'm not doing anything, I said. I'm letting things surface. Silence stretched between us. You're trying to ruin us, she said finally. No, I replied. I'm letting you stand on what you've built. She hung up. The pressure peaked. Settlement offers came through back channels. Deals proposed that would have let everyone save face. Money dangled like bait. Old me might have taken it. This version of me didn't need permission to finish what was started. The final preparation took weeks. Timing mattered. Sequence mattered more. One wrong move, and the whole structure would shift, just enough to survive. I stood one night on a pedestrian bridge, watching traffic crawl beneath me. Headlights like veins carrying the city's lifeblood. I thought about freedom, not the kind you buy, but the kind you earn by refusing to lie to yourself. They believed they'd buried me. What they didn't understand was this. I wasn't buried. I was planted, and everything was about to surface. Asterisk. The end didn't arrive with shouting or slammed doors. It arrived on a Tuesday morning. Dressed like procedure, I sat in a quiet conference room downtown. Not the old one, not theirs. Neutral ground. Fluorescent lights, cheap carpet. A long table with nameplates turned face down until needed. Outside, the city moved like nothing important was happening. Inside, everything was. They entered one by one. Jack first, jaw tight. Ryan next, pale and restless. Two attorneys followed, already defensive, and then her. She didn't look at me. She didn't need to. I could feel the distance. She was trying to keep alive. The mediator began speaking. Rules, order, calm language, meant to soften impact. Then the evidence started. Not all at once. Piece by piece. Timelines laid bare, addendums traced back to hidden approvals, transfers exposed for what they were rushed, self-serving, unauthorized. Testimony from people they assumed would never talk. Nora's documents slid across the table without commentary. The room changed temperature. Their lawyers leaned in, whispered urgently. Pages flipped faster. Confidence drained in real time. The story they'd rehearsed collapsed under its own weight. Flashback hit me, then not painful, but grounding. That first folding chair office. The belief that trust was enough. I saw it clearly now, without nostalgia. Trust needs structure. Respect needs boundaries. Jack finally spoke. This is selective. The mediator didn't react. It's documented. Silence followed. Heavy. Final then came the part I'd waited for without realizing it. Custody papers. Not leveraged truth. Financial access restored. Ownership clarified. Authority returned not as a gift, but as a correction. She looked up at me for the first time. There was no anger in her face. No victory. Just recognition. The kind that comes too late to matter. This wasn't supposed to happen, she said quietly. I didn't respond. Some sentences don't deserve answers. The settlement wasn't kind. It wasn't cruel either. It was accurate. Assets redistributed. Roles reassigned. Public statements drafted with careful neutrality. They kept some of what they'd taken. They lost everything that mattered. Reputation is fragile when built on omission. When it ended, they left quickly. No final words. No apologies. The room emptied until it was just me and the mediator. He nodded once. Professional respect. Nothing more outside. The city felt louder, brighter, like someone had turned the volume back on. I walked without hurry. No triumph. No revenge high. Just relief that tasted like clean air. I didn't go back to the old office. I didn't need to. I started something smaller, leaner, built on contracts I read twice and people I watched longer. Nora joined as a partner, not an assistant. Authority shared, not assumed. Culture defined, not implied. I reconnected with my father over burgers and fries at a place near the river. We talked about work, about mistakes, about silence. "You look steady," he said. "I am," I replied. And for the first time, it wasn't a performance. Weeks later, I ran into Jack on the street. He looked thinner, older. He nodded. I'm sure if acknowledgement was permitted. I nodded back, that was all. At night, I still walked the city. Same streets, different eyes. I noticed people rushing past betrayals they hadn't uncovered yet. Futures balancing on trust they hadn't tested. I felt no urge to warn them. Everyone learns in their own time. The core truth revealed itself slowly, not in court, but in quiet moments afterward. They didn't take my life from me. They revealed what parts of it were real. I reclaimed my name. I reclaimed my work. I reclaimed my time. And most importantly, I reclaimed my judgment. Betrayal broke the version of me that needed approval. Loss stripped away the illusion of control. What returned wasn't the man I used to be, but someone better equipped to keep what he built. This wasn't a comeback story, it was a correction. And the city, relentless and honest, kept moving this time with me fully awake inside it.